What we've done is a little bit different. We're not exactly going to go in and speak, do a live presentation for the full 50 minutes. We've recorded a video entitled The Do's and Don'ts of Video, 15 Tips in 15 Minutes. And it's exactly 15 minutes. And I was made to make that 15 minutes, was held against my account. But that's what we're going to go through and show. Once we're done, we will circle back. I have some little trinkets and stuff for video, and particularly online video, that I could show you. I'll go through a little bit of some equipment you should have, and then we will field a Q&A. Again, we will be relatively brisk in this long Rutgers online conference, so feel free to give us a lot of feedback, and let's cue the video. Hello and welcome. I'm Rob Medaska, Academic Technology Services, Rutgers Newark. Today's topic, creating videos, the do's and don'ts of making videos for your educational purposes, whether it's class or whether it's for meetings or whatever that might be. 15 tips in 15 minutes. Let's start the timer and let's go. Tip number one, the do. Do have something created. Put together a basic outline, put together a PowerPoint presentation, put together something in Word or a PDF. Have something set up, some type of script that you know that you're going to cover. It doesn't have to be exact, but if you have an outline, that'll be a great start because you'll have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and you'll know roughly how long your video is going to be and what you're going to cover. Don't just wing it. Don't just show up and just start the recording, whether it's on your phone or on the laptop, and then just start talking and make things up, because it won't go as smooth as it would if you put together a basic outline or a basic script. Tip number two, practice. 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Go in and practice roughly what you're going to do, just so you can get the timing down and everything's pretty much set up and you're comfortable with not the material, because you know your material, it's the video aspect of it. When the camera's on, a lot of people tend to freeze up. So practice it. Don't just start the camera and then just start talking about your topic, because what's going to happen is you might fumble, you might run into a problem. That's exactly what you don't want, because then you're going to have to start the recording all over again. Tip number three, do dress the part. You want to wear the same type of clothing you would in front of a live classroom if you were on campus for the students. It just gives that professional appearance and it makes them take notice. So you want to dress appropriately. You want to dress as you would in the classroom. Don't dress like this. Don't show up and put together an outfit that you would not wear in the classroom, that students really wouldn't take you professionally. They wouldn't look at you. So this is what you don't want to do. You want to dress the part as you would in campus. Tip number four, set up your set. You want to be in a place that's representative of the information that you're looking to convey. So you want to be in either an office setting or something that's appropriate for your topic. Do not film in a place that has nothing to do with whatever the topic you're going to cover, because then it's going to send false messages and students really aren't going to get your material as well as they could. Tip number five, lighting. Make sure you have good lighting. You want to check to make sure you have a lamp next to your laptop or a camera or phone or whatever device you're going to be using for recording. Lighting is extremely important. If the students or anybody who's watching the video can't see you, they can't see you. Do not film or sit next to a window or have light that's either above you or too strong behind you, because without good lighting, if they can't see you, they're not going to get what you're trying to convey. Tip number six, audio. Everybody shoots video and they focus in on the image. Very few people pay attention to what is said, the sound. The sound is the most important in any video recording you do. Make sure you speak clearly. Make sure the microphone you're using is picking you up properly. These are extremely important. Speak clearly, slowly. Also check your audio. Do not have bad audio. If you have bad audio and no one can hear you, doesn't matter how good you look, no one is going to get what you're saying because they can't hear what you're saying. Audio is extremely important. Make sure to focus in on that. Tip number 7, compose your shot. You want to make sure that the camera or your laptop camera is set up so that it's recording you. You want to make sure it's exactly what you want to convey. Do not shoot the ceiling. Do not shoot too low. Do not shoot something that's not eye level. So if you need to put your camera on a little table or some books, raise it up so that it's shooting you. Also look at the camera. Don't look left, don't look right. You're talking to your students with your camera, so the setup is extremely important, and the shot, the way you set your shot up, is extremely important. And then real quick, 10-second check. Record 10 seconds, play it back, make sure it's exactly what you want before you proceed to do your entire lecture. Tip number 8, introduce yourself. Let them know who you are each and every time you record. You would do the same thing in front of a classroom, so you want to simulate when you record as well. They want to get to know you. You're not going to be physically in the classroom, so this is the best way for them to find out who you are. Do not just start into a lecture and just start talking about the topic. You want to do a nice little segue so that they get to know you and you get to know them. This way you can get information about yourself, give it to them. Don't just jump directly into whatever topic you're going to cover. Do a little introduction each and every time you record. Tip number 9, have a segue into your material. You're developing a relationship with your students online. It's difficult. It's not easy to do, but if you segue slowly into your material, that'll help develop that relationship, even though it's on camera and it's not face-to-face in the classroom. Do not just jump into the material. Do not basically talk to them as if it's a camera. It's people on the other end of that camera, so you want to make sure that you go into your material and that you cover it gently. You don't want to dive into the pool. You want to slowly get in there. So segue would be a great way to do it. Tip number 10, the 30-second rule. If you start going into material and you start to flub it or you mess up before 30 seconds, stop the recording and start again. You're only 30 seconds in. You can easily go back and start the recording. It's not like you're 10 minutes in or 5 minutes in or 4 minutes in. So do that. That's a definite do. Do not just keep going. You're only recording 30 seconds, so it's easy to stop the recording and start it again rather than just go through and like flub lines or cover stuff or say things that you really didn't want to. The 30-second rule, start again if needed. Tip number 11, the 60-second rule. If after 60 seconds you flub a line or you go through something that's not major, explain it and keep going. Your job is to teach, not to make video recordings, all right? You're not putting this out there for the world to see. You're recording it for your students. They'll understand that you messed up a little something, and also explain it. Say that you messed up something. They'll appreciate that fact. You don't want to keep recording and spend hours and hours. That's not your job. Your job is to teach. So if it's after 60 seconds, explain it, keep going. Tip number 12, the 5-minute rule. Try not to have videos or segments that are longer than 5 minutes. What you kind of want to do is you want to keep it a little bit shorter. You want to make them slighter videos. People like to use the word chunk. I don't like to use chunk because of this, so I like to say slight. So the reason you do that is because the attention span, after 5 minutes, people start to tune out.
Accounts payable is basically an account where a company pays other people. In accounts payable, you can have multiple different types of vendors. A vendor would be basically an individual company that falls under the umbrella of accounts payable.
If you could basically reduce your videos and make more segments, shorter segments, you're much more apt to have students watch those videos and, more importantly, retain the information that you're trying to convey. Tip number 13, summarize your presentation. You summarized it at the beginning. summarize it at the end, and go over some of the main points that you focused in on. It's a great way to come full circle so that students are aware of the main topics you were trying to cover and the main things you were trying to go over. Do not just go through the material and then just abruptly end.
Okay, so that is basically about journal entries. That's how you make a journal entry. I'm not going to summarize. You should know it. I'm just going to close. I'll see you next week. Goodbye.
You want to kind of segue and say, listen, this is what we covered and this is why it's important. That's an important one to do at the end, summarize. Tip 14, have a strong close. Make sure that you go through and say, this is the end. We're going to segue into the next material that we're going to cover. Also, again, remind them who you are. Second introduction is never a bad thing. The more they get to know you, the more likely your students will be successful in your course. Don't just end abruptly. Make a nice ending so that next time you record, you could segue into it really well. Tip 15. When you're finished with your recording, you're going to upload it to your Kaltura My Media section. Make sure that you have titles, you have descriptions. Students want to know what they're going to watch and what material is going to be covered in the video that you just created. Extremely important. Don't leave titles blank. Don't leave descriptions blank, because students are not apt to go look at it in your media because they're not really sure what it is. Here's a quick tour of My Media inside of Canvas. Name. Make sure to post a name and date. That's very important. Underneath, description. Put together a somewhat lengthy description explaining exactly what's going to be covered in your session. Include some tags. Makes it much easier for students to go in and search. Publishing status. Make sure that it's published and choose the appropriate course that it will be published to. Once you're done, hit save, and it will basically appear inside of your course. You just have to set up a link for students to go view it. That's a quick tour of My Media. We've gone through our 15 steps, but there's an unofficial 16th step, review. So let's review. Tip number 1, write an outline. Have something created before you begin filming. Presentation is important, reception is important. Organization is key to giving a good presentation. Tip number 2, practice 3 minutes. Take at least 3 minutes to go over your presentation and prepare. Preparation is the key to a good video. You've done it live, but video is a little bit different. Tip number 3, dress the part. You're a professional, so dress professionally, as you would in front of a live class. Just because it's video does not make it any different. Tip number 4, set up your set. Find a quiet and appropriate place to record. Find an appropriate background, just as you would have as if you were in front of a live class. Tip number 5, lighting. Make sure you have a good light to keep you lit continuously throughout your video. If they can't see you, they will not pay attention. Tip number 6, audio. It's the most important part of your video. Make sure you have a good microphone and you test the microphone. If they can't hear you, they can't learn. Tip number 7, the 10-second check. Record yourself for about 10 seconds, then check to make sure it's exactly the way you want it. If it isn't, start all over again. Tip number 8, introduce yourself at the start. Students want to know who you are, and they want to know what topic will be covered that day. You would do it in front of a class, do exactly the same thing on video. Tip number 9, segue into your topic, and then add an interesting fact. Students want to learn, and they want to learn from you. So give them a reason to pay attention. It's important because they're not in front of a class, this is on video. Tip number 10, the 30-second rule. If you make a mistake or your phone goes off in the first 30 seconds, stop, start all over again. It's important to have a good beginning. Tip number 11, the 60-second rule. If you make a mistake after 60 seconds, keep going. You don't want to keep recording and recording and recording. Students will understand, acknowledge, and then move on with whatever topic you're covering. Tip number 12, 5-minute max. Keep your recordings short and to the point. Create topics This allows students to review the topics easier, to go back and study, and makes them ready for any test you might give. Tip number 13, summarize the main points at the end of your recording to emphasize all the main topics that you covered. It's great at the beginning, and it's also great at the end. It helps prepare your students. Tip 14, have a strong close, and once again, do a quick review. Remind them what they've listened to, and most importantly, why it's important. Tip 15, My Media. Make sure you follow the guidelines we've presented to upload your media, label it, and make it as accessible for your students as possible. That's it, 15 tips, 15 minutes. We're just about out of time. I'm Rob Medaska, Rutgers Newark Academic Technology Services. I hope this helped. And again, if you have any questions, reach out to us at any point in time. We made it.
Rob's going to take over. Joy and Joseph, they're going to answer some of your questions. Feel free to put those in the chat window. I may moderate that as well and kind of keep this going. But I'm going to turn it over to the team. Joseph, Robert, and Joy, enjoy.
I see a lot of comments came in about my t-shirt, so I figured I'd bring it out. All right. It's seems to be pretty popular. So it was comfortable to wear at the time. And again, thank you guys for the all positive reception. It's very much appreciated. What we'll do now is I'll take you through, I'll show you some video equipment and some audio equipment that we utilize in our recordings and our live sessions. Then we'll field a Q&A, and then it'll be almost time for lunch. Joe gets hungry early, so we'll make sure to wrap and give you guys plenty of time. Some things to, if you can, to work with or to utilize. Having a good camera is very good. It's quite helpful on going through. Here I have a Depth Tech. This is a 2K camera, all right, 2K camera. It's a little bit better than an HD camera. It's a USB, all right, so it's got a USB plug. You simply just plug it in, which if you're using Zoom, which I know a lot of people are utilizing Zoom, just get it to recognize, make sure the drivers are there, and plug it in, and it really upgrades the quality immensely. And before I continue, I forgot to apologize for step 12. We broke. It was supposed to only be a 5-minute segment, and we recorded this in 15 minutes. So we should chop that up. My apologies, but I do blame Joe as always. So moving along with some equipment, external microphone. All right, external microphone. Again, USB. Simply plug it in. And again, feel free to ask any questions. If you could answer them, that'd even be better. This way I could just have coffee. But ask any questions, go through. Joy and Joe are monitoring the chat while I go up here and take us on a QVC tour. This is your pea popper screen. I pop my peas a lot. So hence I need to place this on my external USB microphone. A couple other things, lights. All right, lighting. Some really quick, and again, I'll just take this on, simple clip ring light. It's bright. I'm getting a tan right here. It's great because it clips onto your laptop. It's super simple. Again, USB. I have it clipped onto my external monitor. Position it the way you want. It helps with lighting. Also on this side, I can't.
Hey Rob, can I just jump in?
Joe.
Just
yeah,
one of the questions
Interrupt.
was about lighting. What's the best placement for lighting on the desk?
Excellent, excellent question, Joe. And again, Joe, Joy, just interrupt me if we go through, because I'm sure we're going to have a lot of great questions. We have a lot of great people here. Perfect question. To answer your question, 3-point lighting would be the best. So, for example, I just took my ring light down. This is my basically, all right, key light. Over here, I have a swivel lamp. All right, it's a desktop lamp. It's a regular desktop lamp. It is Consiac. That's the name. I'm really bad with names. Joy will pronounce it better later, but that's as good as I can get. But what it is, it's a 360 swivel lamp, so it goes 360 degrees. Also, it's 180 degrees turnable up top. Again, LED. Those are the first two parts. Those are pretty good. If you want to get really creative, my background, hopefully you guys can see it. I jacked it up a little bit. 3-point lighting, having a background light to give you depth. That really takes your videos just a little step up from a traditional 2-point or 2D setting to almost a three-dimensional feel, and it's kind of inviting, and it invites people in to see, oh, where's he sitting, what stuff. I can't tell you how many questions I get on my background and stuff, and it helps break the ice, and it helps make communication simpler when you have a commonality as an instructor with your students. It makes it so much easier to deliver your message because now they're on the same page with you. So lighting helps to bridge that long distance internet gap. So I hope
Hey, Rob,
that
so
helps.
I'm just gonna, because there's a bunch of questions. So before you segue into other different things, so one of the questions was about editing. Editing. What do you feel about editing your video? And if so, what tools do you use for editing?
And again, you guys feel Joe, feel free to jump in as well. I've been video editing, and I'm actually going to throw this back in a minute, but I've been video editing for probably about 20 years or so. I've cut a feature film. I've done a lot of TV work, web work, and things like that. So for me, that video, I worked with my video partner, and we cut it on Adobe Premiere, utilizing backgrounds. I saw some of the people mentioning some of the backgrounds. Those are from Digital Juice. All right, Digital Juice. And again, when I mention all these things, and I'll show you a little bit some of the equipment that I have on Amazon and prices, just to kind of give you an idea. Digital Juice is that type, or Video Hive is another place. Video Hive. If Joe gets a chance, he'll throw some of these links in the chat. Digital Juice and Video Hive. They're good for 3D backgrounds and enhancing your video, like I did with the video that we recorded. That was a 15-minute video. Again, I broke my rule. I apologize. But a lot of the graphics and lower thirds, a lower third would be at the bottom, that basically would be here, and it would either introduce you or maybe introduce the topic. These things are extremely useful because they almost serve as segue breaks, like DVD chapter breaks or things like that. So students say, all right, here's what's coming up. I really got to pay attention. I saw there was an accounting instructor in here, and I've been teaching accounting for 8,000 years. Again, I started when I was 4. But some of the breaks say, okay, I really need to pay attention on debits and credits because I have no clue how debits and credits works. So it really retrains the focus of the student or anybody who's watching the video. So that also helps. But I used Premiere, which is a steep learning curve. The Adobe also has Rush, which is a similar, more simple editing tool. I'll throw it out to Joy, Joe, and Kevin. You guys, what are your takes on video editing that might be simplistic for the our users to utilize?
I think probably Camtasia Studio is pretty simple. It's not too crazy. It's something. It's not free. It's something you have to pay for, but it's fairly inexpensive compared to the Adobe products. Is there any other ones I can?
Yeah,
try to
that's
think
a
of?
pretty straightforward one. For those of you who are Rutgers faculty or staff, though, we do get a license of Adobe Creative Suite. So that's a nice way to start. And they do have a lighter version of their video editing tool in case you want to try that out first before diving into a more advanced tool.
Another thing to consider, and I think the group will agree with me, is your ecosystem. If you're working on a PC, you're going to want to go, if you have the ability to use these products, you're going to want to go into maybe the Adobe products. If you are working in a Mac environment, you can use Adobe products, but they do have introductory software like iMovie, which is very basic, which will teach you how to cut a video together. And then there is a third-party application called Adobe Final Cut Pro, which is kind of a niche product. It's very similar to Adobe Premiere, has some different features. Again, it comes down to personal preference and what your ecosystem is.
Yep, we do have within Kaltura the ability to do some recording, but the only thing you can do is trim in the beginning and trim in the end. We are not a fan of the lack of editing capability there.
Yes, and I'm going to follow up with Jim. Final Cut is only a Apple product, just like Motion is an Apple product and After Effects would be an Adobe product. So if you are looking for flexibility, but there is a steep learning curve, you would go into the Adobe products because they do work on both platforms simultaneously.
Yep, that's right, Kevin. And again, as Kevin mentioned, utilizing what equipment you have, whether you're on a PC or a Mac, helps determine which type of video editing you would do. Also, the degree of video editing that you want to do. I mean, not everybody wants to go in and do Premiere and do green screen, and you shouldn't have to. A lot of people here are instructors. Your job is to basically teach. I mean, you don't need to really be video editing. So things that are simple And that's why we did this video, because we're taking zero editing into account to make your life a little less hectic with products and technology and things that you might need to know. So that should help a lot with regard to that. CNET is a great resource tool to research for some free video editing tools. But again, they're free. They're just simple. Really what you kind of want, as Joy mentioned before, is some cut editing, piecing just what you want together. A simple dissolve will do for most folks. So that would be simply a way to go. But there are a ton of tools online. And again, if you have any questions at all, including from Greece, Arkansas, I almost forgot I said the wrong city and state, reach out to us at any time. Joe or Joy will put our contact information, email and phone in the chat. Feel free to reach out. We work with colleagues. Joe and myself have pretty much worked at every university in New Jersey and some in New York. Joy's laughing, but she knows it's true. So we're known about. So honestly, feel free to reach out to us at any time, and we'd be glad to sit down and go through any questions on any of the video stuff and how we did it and where we did it. But
I'm going to go ahead and jump in. There was a
Go,
question
Joy.
about where Rutgers folks can access Adobe Creative Cloud, and you'll simply go to software.rutgers.edu, log in with your NetID and password, and it's actually one of the highlighted tools. You'll see it over on the left-hand side. Otherwise, just go ahead and do a search for Adobe. Susan also mentioned, do you have to edit? You don't.
No.
I mean, part of the engagement, right, with your students online is that they know that you're a real person. So it does not have to be a super fancy, all the bells and whistles. You can really be authentic if you don't edit to the, a professional degree.
But that's our do's and don'ts. There was nothing in there about editing, because again, you guys are instructors. You're not video editors like Kevin. All right, that's his background. That's not your background or so. So he gave the thumbs up. So apparently his audio is working. So that's
Yeah.
good. But remember, go ahead, Ken.
And just to parallel this a little bit, and to really emphasize what Joy is saying, there is an emphasis in online learning about authentic video. If you do over edit, if you do use a motion background, if you do a lot of animations and things, those could be distractors and also take away from the content. Just be aware of that. So, from that perspective, don't forget that for every, I think from 1 minute of video from production to post-production is about 10 hours worth of work. So if you were going to do a 10-minute long video, you're talking, to do it properly, maybe 30 to 40 hours to do that video, from scripting to storyboarding to producing to shooting to editing. It is a long time. And there was also one question about where you can find resources. If you have access to lynda.com or the old lynda.com, which is now LinkedIn Learning,
Yep.
That is a great resource. The classes are awesome. You get certifications from, or certificates from LinkedIn Learning, which are starting to hold their own weight as certifications, being that they do develop programs and tracks. So you can literally take a whole track in an Adobe program, 20, 30 hours of content learning about Premiere or about After Effects or whatever, come out with a piece of paper from that. That does help. I know that from my own experience.
Yeah, and a couple of other things that just some past questions that went through the chat. Someone asked, should we be captioning all videos or only some? I think you should always caption all, especially for accessibility purposes. It's always good to have. Kaltura is machine captioned by default, so you want to always go in and check the captioning, make sure it's actually captured the right words and not something else. Another question was about what you want to do for best quality audio. What's suggestions for having best quality audio?
All right, good. That's a perfect segue, because I still have equipment over here, Joe, and I've yet to get to. We got to move product, so let me bring up our next item on the agenda.
Rob, while you do that, I just want to mention that Denise had talked about PowerPoint, and one of the advantages, if you're a Kaltura customer, is that using that PowerPoint, it actually takes that text from your PowerPoint slides to make it much more useful for students. They can search by keywords and all sorts of great stuff.
Thank you, Joe. All right, to audio, again, extremely important. I had to wear this because I couldn't really show you, but I wanted to go through. USB clip-on microphone. All right, Movo. I think I can pronounce that. Again, these, and I'll show you in a little bit from Amazon. Some of these things, they're not pricey whatsoever. It's a simple clip-on USB microphone, lavalier, goes on your lapel, and it provides good audio. Good audio is by far more important than video. I've been doing film and video, like I said, 25 years plus. I've had to reshoot multiple scenes because the audio was really bad on a lot of films and projects that I worked on because people don't pay attention to the audio and stuff. Podcasts, you got to have great audio. Those guys have fantastic mics. Another piece of equipment that I have upstairs I didn't bring down would be a Zoom recorder for audio. That would be if you were going to do just audio or a podcast type event where you want pristine audio. It just records audio. Pros use it. All right. Kevin has it there. All right. It's the industry standard Zoom for a lot of things, whether you're working on film. Yep, there he is, H6. Bingo. I think we have bingo over there in Kevin's quadrant as we go. Perfect. Thank you for breaking that out, Kevin. Again, audio, extremely important. More important than video. If I can't hear you, I'm out. If I can't see you, but I can hear you great, I can live with that. And again, there's a lot of aspects to it. Our video we did was for nobody editing, just simple things to go through. But a lot of these pieces of equipment are very useful in going through and working with some of these things. Moving right along on our product. Okay. You got Joe? You got something?
Yeah. Well, it's just a question someone asked before. Does 3-point lighting work well with virtual backgrounds? Pretty sure it wouldn't change your background. It should work fine.
It's probably not. It's probably less important and probably utilized less for one simple reason. I don't want to emphasize anything in the background because if you're doing a virtual background, you're simulating like a green screen, like you would see in every single Marvel comic movie that was out there. Black Panther, for example, that we just saw in the keynote address. Notice how I circle back there because I'm good like that and modest. But those kind of lighting events you don't really want. You want simple lighting up front. That would emphasize the virtual background in something like Zoom a little bit better. Lighting a green screen or blue screen is very difficult because the lighting has to be pristine and precise. If you're doing a virtual background, scrap the 3-point lighting. I wouldn't even bother. But if you're utilizing something where your background is important and you want to emphasize some kind of image, then I would look into 3-point lighting. And it might be as simple as turning a light on. Really, really quite simple. Speaking of
There was a
lighting.
question about Zoom and recording. Absolutely. We have a lot of faculty who are comfortable and used to using Zoom. So they'll go ahead and just pull up Zoom and go ahead and do a quick lecture, not with students, just literally by themselves recording. Use what you're comfortable with. So again, if you like Zoom, if you're used to it, you know where the share button is, you know where all those options are, go ahead and use Zoom. Once you've recorded your Zoom session, you can still download that MP4 if you wanted to edit and maybe even chunk afterwards.
Another function of Zoom, which is really good, you don't have to record it to the cloud. You can record it locally to your hard drive or external hard drive. I do use that for some podcast stuff that I do, where I'm going to record like an hour-long, free-flowing sort of thing that I'm doing, and then just bring the audio in, which is different than what we're talking about here, but it gives me the audio file that I can work with, and I can chunk it up myself. So I do find Zoom is almost like the poor man's Camtasia. It does some good things, has some limits, but you can do a lot with it.
No, absolutely. Thanks for definitely bringing that up. And again, other products, as Kevin mentioned, like Camtasia and things like that, all these are great. And we highly suggest just investigating them to see if they work right for you. Lighting. Background lighting right now I have for 3-point lighting. I'm utilizing, all right, Invisi G2. Again, I'm bad with pronunciation, so I figured I'd just show you the box. This is fantastic because it's an LED light, it's rechargeable, and it has many different modes, including strobe mode if you're going to be redoing Saturday Night Fever or anything along those lines. But it's here, it's easy to set up, it's easy to charge. You use it for a background depth, and it works wonders. All right, again, over here, just in case anybody is interested. Joy mentions before about shooting on a phone. Again, shooting on your phone. And Joy mentioned it. She's 100% right. Landscape, always do that. Also, some tools that you can use if you're going to pre-record a lecture on your phone. Simple tripod. It's a simple tripod. It hooks up. You open this up, snaps onto your phone. You leave it there, record a lecture. Done. It's all on your phone, and most phones now have at least definitely high def. Some are even up to 4K as far as what they shoot. And again, the higher the definition, the better the image quality. The only thing on your phone is to really, the image quality will be good video wise. Just pay attention to your audio. So speak really loudly like Joe does.
And one thing I also want to emphasize, kind of on topic, it's always important to remember this. If you're around a microphone, it is always on. That means
I'm sorry, what'd you say, Kevin?
Exactly.
I'm kidding.
Exactly. So if you're somewhere and you see a microphone, don't assume you can say anything even casually, because microphones do pick up a lot of things. Just be aware of that. That does save a lot of things going forward. And if you see a video camera, especially a cell phone camera, again, audio and video always being recorded. Just always be aware of that. As a public figure, as a state employee, I'm held to a higher responsibility, and I'm always afraid of when I see a video camera or an audio camera. I just am. So I just kind of run that rule.
While Kevin trembles a little bit over there, I'll show you our last piece of equipment and then we'll move on. Simple, like the selfie stick. I mean, if you're, let's say somebody mentioned before they were a history instructor and you're going on a tour of, let's say, a castle or something that you want to take your students on and show virtually, selfie stick would be a great way to do that. If they can't be there, but you can walk them through you being there, that's a fantastic tool to teach students about things like history. So these are just some of the tools, some of the things that we have. Great questions coming in and great response. We really can't thank you guys enough. Joe, Joy, any other things coming in that we should cover?
I'm going to go ahead and jump in. So Denise was asking about PowerPoint. And we have lots of faculty who use PowerPoint for their lecture. One of the advantages of using PowerPoint with the audio is you can re-record slides, especially if you're not ready to take a look at editing and you just don't even want to take a look at that. Just plain old PowerPoint with audio. It does have the ability to export that lecture with the audio to an MP4 files, and then you can share it appropriately. Kevin Cordero had asked about where to look, right? Do I look at my notes or do I look at the camera? I always try to look at the camera just because my students are going to be seeing what I'm looking at when I'm looking at the camera. Again, that's kind of going back to Rob where he's talking about practice, right? So that you don't have to sit there and look at your notes and read one by one. So that sharing or that practicing absolutely helps. Let's see. Denise also asked about video. Yeah, the students do really like to see somebody, but they don't care as much. We put a lot of effort and angst on ourselves, and the students don't pay as much attention. And that's kind of going back to Rob's comment about the audio. I don't care if you're talking there and seeing your head, but if I can't hear you, that's more important. So that's where don't stress yourself out.
I'm not stressed at the clutter in my background. So, I'm good.
Another cool tool, if I can, a GoPro.
Yeah.
I mean, these things are great. I have a clip for it, so I can clip this to anything. I have all the accessories, but this is really a good thing you can do too, especially for experiential learning, where you can literally mount this to the body of your shoulder, like your body, and you can walk around and do these things. It's pretty cool. And then I did see someone saying...
Let me jump in real quick, Kevin.
Yeah.
Also, there are many alternatives, cheaper alternatives to the GoPro, where you can get things. GoPro is a little expensive. I have a GoPro that we utilize, but I also have like some GoPro knockoffs, which are like $50. They're pretty good for the price you pay. The bang for your buck is definitely well worth it. Again, reach out to us. And we can give you some information on some things like that if you need be, not just during the conference, but long after the conference as well. Go ahead, Kevin. I'm sorry.
No, I did see someone, maybe someone can address this a little bit better than I can. Is there a way to put text over a Zoom video?
Text in a Zoom video when you record it?
I think it's more of a post-production question. Like, how would you import the video and then put text over it?
Joy, you're muted. I see you talking. Yeah, I think you have to do in post-production editing software.
Yeah, you'd have to edit it, even if it's something simplistic. And again, as I mentioned before, Video Hive, I use those guys a lot. And Digital Juice, I also mentioned, but Video Hive is great because they have some basic text things in there. And even like Adobe Rush or different products, Vegas Video. There are so many video tools out there that are based for people who don't do video editing. That would be really the only way to put in lower thirds or text graphics below. And believe it or not, they're very important because they do basically give the student information about what you're covering. Maybe they're on the bus going to work and they're watching your lecture on a phone. As mentioned in the keynote, so many people utilize mobile technology to get their educational information that even text or little picture-in-picture things help immensely, because if they're on the bus and they can't hear what's going on and they see, okay, I need to come back to this because this is very important. Little things like that help a lot. I think a song was written about that. I'm not sure.
And just from moderation standpoint, we have about 5 minutes left. Is there anything else from the group that we want to talk about, or is there anything else we want to ask for our panelists?
I do actually want to reiterate Jana's comment that speaking to the camera can help students who may need to lip read. So that's a great accessibility comment. Thank you.
Sure, no doubt. And again, people want to know people. That's just the way it is. Part of the pandemic, as everyone's seen, is the lack of socialization. And you go to school not just to learn, but to socialize, and that's socializing with us. So to go in there, and somebody mentioned, I think before in one of the chats, about using an announcement to do a text or a video. I'm doing a video every time because they get to see me. They know my inflections. Nothing could be misinterpreted. Well, it obviously could, but not as much as it could. Stop laughing, Joy. Not as much as it could in text format. So as much as I could show myself, even looking like this, I'm going to show myself.
Okay, well, I think Joseph says it best. We have some contact information for you. We have the ATS phone number being 973-353-1713, and then the individual emails for Joy, Robert, and Joseph. Okay. I do have a graphic. I could put that information up if we are done. Do we have any more questions going forward?
And we can't thank you guys enough for chat has been awesome.
Okay, I'd like to thank our panelists today. Thank you, Joseph. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Joy. Please stick around for a section. After the session is over, I'm going to put up a graphic, and then we will convene privately after 11:30. Okay?
Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much.
Be good, guys. Everybody have a great conference.